That little bit of white blood meant everything. And two ladies, they had a bit of a row. They're going to point out at White Marquee how white there was. And Mum got home and she measured it out. And that was Jimmy's mother, was whiter than the other one, although Ina was darker. Ina had more white blood in her than Theda. Everything had to be white. If you had a spoonful, you was right. You was somebody. You done yourself up with powder, all this different black tulip and Max Factor and Ponds. I can remember them all. And that's what they used to buy to make themselves look white.
We really were in a period of time that my parents were trying to keep our Aboriginality from us. But later on in life, when I was 16 and went fishing with my father and eventually got to Flinders Island, I stepped off the boat and a Pat Green came up, that is one of my cousins, who I had never met, and basically recognised me from my looks and said, "You're Keith Everett's son, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm your cousin Pat. You better come down here and meet the rest of your mob." And so she took me down along the Lady Barron beach there, and there was all of our mob living in tin shacks and shanties along the beachhead there. And so I basically went in there and met everybody.
How did you feel at that moment?
It was just a feeling of enlightenment. It was almost as if I said to myself, I really knew this, but I didn't, but I felt that I knew it. And I mean, it was almost an immediate understanding that we were Aborigines.
Yes, it was when I came back to Flinders Island after living in Melbourne that I found my roots and my identity started to become a major issue to me. When I started going out with Chris, who is my husband and was one of the soldier settler farmers' sons, it caused all sorts of problems, both from his family's point of view and the other soldier settlers around the place, that I, an Aboriginal person, should dare to become emotionally involved with one of their people. My father-in-law said to me that I couldn't any longer be Aboriginal because I was now a Matson, and Matsons weren't Aboriginal, and that was it. It was at that stage that I decided that I had to revert to my maiden name and remain a Green in order to keep my identity.
It's all about recognition of us as a people, of our sovereignty. And it's for those people over there that land rights is important for Waibelena. We've seen far too much done to those people and those graves over there, and we want to protect them, and we'll fight very hard to protect them. It's the point at which nearly all Aboriginal people in Tasmania come together because of the old fellas like Manalagena, who was great-great-grandfather to me and Vicky and a lot of Aboriginal people. That draws us together by family.
The fact is that Waibelena is the place where genocide was attempted. Our taking back this site makes a statement that that genocide didn't succeed, that we are still here, we are still continuing, and we intend to stay here.
There's no doubt about it that because of the preferential treatment, for want of a better word, that people of Aboriginal descent have received, there is more division and bitterness in this community now than when I first came 25 years ago.
And you don't feel that a bit of preferential treatment doesn't do any harm given the 200 years of not such good treatment?
Maybe preferential treatment does not necessarily need to be in the form of money. Maybe it can be in the form of education, not only of people of Aboriginal descent, but certainly equal opportunity. I agree with that.
But isn't it money and land? Isn't that what's important to people?
That's very much a European value. Certainly it shouldn't be an Aboriginal one, I wouldn't have thought.
Australia has this idea that Aborigine equals an old fella running around with a spear with one leg up and a loincloth on. And they don't realise that cultures can change, and contemporary Aboriginal Australia is a very diverse and rich culture and society. We don't have to stand around in the bush on one leg with a spear. Doesn't mean we're not black.
In fact, it's very hard to find out how many Aboriginals we have got on the island. But a very large proportion of them have got blue eyes and fair hair.
Also, a lot of people who are accepted by the Aboriginal community have no Aboriginal ancestry. And that's, that's a fact. So...
To be accepted, and in fact, it's not a bad idea. I've often thought about it, but all you've got to do is to be accepted by the local Aboriginal community, and if they say 3 times I accept, you're in. I think. I'm not really sure. I haven't checked that one out in great detail, but it's sort of vaguely of that's the way that it sort of happens.
It really is just another means of trying to destroy something that's important to us. A means of trying to make our identity seem unimportant.
Can anyone identify and get
No,
financial benefits?
Of course, anybody can't identify. The federal government puts down a very clear definition of Aboriginal people, and you have to fit within that definition. I might add there that we are the only race in Australia that is required to identify under legislation.
I don't think that it is the job of me or my age group to carry what are now construed as the sins of our forefathers. I don't think that I should have a burden of guilt.
I'm sorry for what happened. I genuinely am. And I think that what happened at Waibalina was a blot in our history, and it would have been better if it hadn't have happened. But here I am sitting down in 1991 looking at what happened in 1830. So I've got the benefit of 130 years of hindsight. And I'm judging what happened then with today's views. What happened, probably what George Robinson did was well intentioned. So I find it hard to malign what he did now and say that I personally have a debt and I must make reparation.
George planted the roses to start with, and we gradually added to them a few at a time, you know. We've got 60 odd roses now. And
what was George's connection with Waibalina?
well, he was buried here for one. But no, we live here and we've lived in this community all our lives. And this was our natural place to come. And his uncle, or his great uncle, Robert, he leased the whole of this after the Aboriginals left. Well, in fact, he practically leased the whole island, but he leased it, all this area.
What do you think about the changes in attitudes in the Aboriginal community?
Well, I think it's a wicked, wicked shame. I mean, nobody thought anything about splitting up from them. They were just part of the community, welcomed as part of the community, treated as part of the community. Some of them, of course, have always got a little chip on the shoulder, but of course they'd have that no matter where they live. But on the whole, some of my best friends were Aboriginals, or what they call Aboriginals.
How did they regard themselves in those days?
They were just part of the community. Nobody, if you said they were half-castes or black or anything, oh, that was an insult. No one ever thought of them as that.